Well, welcome to the show.
This is our view from the bench.
Well, welcome to the show. I'm Brendan, Dan Campbell's Missed Opportunities.
And I'm Corey, the hopes and dreams of Ravens fans, and happy Thursday and happy February.
Happy Thursday, happy February. It's what is it? Love month, I guess, for Valentine's Day, Black History Month. Happy February to you, man.
It's a leap year, so we get an extra day.
Oh, 29. Dude, you remember that guy that we went to at least middle school and high school with? What was his name? Colin, that had leap year birthday?
Yeah, I was just gonna say Colin. That was the name I was thinking too.
Perfect. All right, so we were right. So we actually know somebody who was born on a leap year. So what is he turning, 8 this year or something like that?
Let's see, we're gonna be 36 this year, so yeah, that is right. He is 8. Coming up at the end of the month.
Grow up. Jeez. Actually, that kid was like one of the smartest kids in our freaking graduating class.
Was that Culbertson, right? Colin Culbertson?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's right. His mom was the
shout out, bro.
Teacher, if I remember correctly.
I don't remember, but yes, a teacher nonetheless, for sure. Don't remember what subject, but I do remember that she was a teacher for sure. He was always chill. So leap year, I guess it's a good day. Well, we got a lot to talk about in this episode. When we were planning it, we didn't think we would, but I guess we think that almost every single time. And then the sports world just provides us with plenty of information. So excited to get into it today. How has your week been so far, though?
Actually, I've had a really easy week so far. It's we had a game on yesterday for the Ducks, but I did not work it. I worked the day shift, and of course, not only did the Ducks win, they won in overtime. And Vetrano, who's the All-Star representing the Ducks in Toronto this weekend, which we discussed last episode, he got the game winner in overtime, so that was cool. The only problem is we've been struggling all year, and at their last 4 games, they're 3-0-1. So I'm like, cool, that's 7 out of 8 points. Now we have a week off because of the All-Star break. Perfect timing.
Yeah, we can't keep that hot streak rolling. Well, I mean, I guess they technically can when they come back, but it's nice to not have a giant break in the middle to maybe keep that momentum. I see what you mean.
Yeah, so we'll see how that goes. But otherwise, it's been pretty easy to just day shifts and surviving the rain down here in SoCal today, as you saw as well, I'm sure.
Bro, it's been nuts, dude. It was pouring. I woke up in the middle of the night to use a bathroom, and I was like, damn, that's loud. Like, I could just hear it beating on the roof and stuff like that. We got a big one this week. It's nice though, dude. I kind of like it because I live right by the mountains here. So instead of them being brown hills, I can actually see some green on it once the rain arrives. So it's nice because it's pretty much everything is dead here in Southern California.
We don't get enough of it. So as the dad saying would be is we need it, but unfortunately we're not ready for it because we were flooded all over today, and we will probably be this weekend when it continues on raining on us as well. But how was your week so far?
It was pretty chill. I don't think I've really done much. Oh, my dad came over for dinner on Tuesday, so that was kind of cool. Just other than that, just been a normal freaking week. Work, going to work, coming home.
Don't forget your trip yesterday.
Oh yeah, I went to Disneyland yesterday. That's true. I forgot. It's been like almost 2 months now since I've been because I couldn't go in December. Our pass expired, and then I haven't gone this whole month because I've been freaking sick. So it was kind of nice. Got some food. They have like Lunar New Year right now, so it's a bunch of like Asian style food. So it's really good. Got some dumplings and stuff. Got some udon, stuff like that. So it was good. It was nice actually. A couple rides and just kind of hit home. The only sucky part was traffic on the way home at like 11 o'clock at night. It took me like an hour to get home. That kind of sucked. But other than that, it was a nice night. Yeah, people so annoying. But yeah, excited to get talking about sports, man. Definitely a highlight of my week, Mondays and Thursdays. So, but before we break down anything, if you're not already, don't forget to please subscribe to the channel. Hit that notification bell so you never miss any one of our new episodes. It's free. It's definitely free to hit both, and we'd like that. And if you like that, Corey, what are we supposed to have them do?
Gotta smash that like button, man. Smash it
up, man. It's also free. Doesn't cost you anything. It helps us out a lot, probably more than you might know. It also, kind of just lets us know that you like what you see. We'd love to talk to you in the comments, and let's keep it rolling. I guess we might as well just kind of break into it. We'll start where we pretty much always start because it's the biggest sport in this country, the NFL. There was a game No, there wasn't. I'm just kidding. We're obviously waiting for the big game. The Pro Bowl's, I guess, this weekend-ish. So that'll be
the flag football game and then the tennis throwing ball competition. They do all kinds of weird stuff now. It's not even. I don't know why they call it the Pro Bowl anymore.
Yeah, it should just be like a these guys are good highlight reel,
That's a good
weekend,
way to
something
put it.
like that. So, but the Super Bowl's obviously coming up. We'll talk more about that definitely on Monday. Next week's episodes, I guess in general, Monday and Thursday, we'll have a couple of things that we want to cover on it, but touch on it a little bit today as well. But we're going to start just in general about other NFL notes. Top of it is the Chargers, hometown Chargers. I know I'm trying to be an LA fan. So Jim Harbaugh was obviously hired as their head coach. They have been looking though for the general manager role to be filled since they let Tom Telesco go, who has since signed with the Raiders, and it has officially been filled. Corey, I like this hire.
I know you
Who'd
do.
they get?
This is the guy you've been waiting for them to get. You've been talking about it for the last 3 weeks, and Joe Horitz is going from Baltimore to the Chargers. And not only that, I didn't realize he'd been with the Ravens so long. He's been there since 1998 when he began as a personal assistant. I mean, he went from scouting positions to director of player personnel, and then working under the general manager, Ozzie Newsome, who actually left a couple, I think last year or the year before. So now it's I mean, another Harbaugh connection too. He worked for Jim's brother over in Baltimore these last few years, so obviously knows John very well, or Jim very well, and is now able to hopefully build an organization and a winning culture in LA. I almost said San Diego. So
That's
used to
good. You
San
caught
Diego.
yourself because I always freaking say San Diego,
Yep.
and that's exactly what I feel like the Chargers need is that culture. They have some pieces, especially the main, most important piece that you need with any franchise in the NFL, which is a franchise quarterback. They have that obviously in Justin Herbert, or at least we think he does. I mean, he set a
Yeah.
bunch of rookie
True.
records with no offensive line and no preseason really because it was I forgot his name. Shoot, but he got hurt. Well, kind of the
Oh
remember the
yeah,
medical
Tyrod
staff,
Taylor, right?
Tyrod Taylor. Yes, thank you. He like the medical staff like punctured his lung, and so he didn't even get to really
Yes.
play. He only played like one game or something like that. So
Yep.
he was thrown into the mix, and he looked great at it. So I guess we'll see. But I like it. I like it. Hopefully, building that culture, like you said.
Yeah, and then Harbaugh actually got introduced today at the press conference as the Chargers coach officially. And one of the highlights for me, at least, is I thought it was funny. Is they take questions from different media people, and usually the first question at most LA sports press conferences come from the legendary Jim Hill, who works for CBS KCAL,
Yeah.
and he was like, "Hey, Jim Hill," and he was like, "Oh." I know, yeah, you're a legend. And then they went back and forth. No, you're a legend. No, you're a legend. You're a legend. So I thought that was actually kind of a nice highlight from that press conference today.
They kind of are both legends if you think about it.
I mean, Jim Hill is Mr. LA sports guy. I mean,
Dude, I love it.
if we're not talking about Chick Hearn, Bob Miller, and Vin
Vin
Scully,
Scully.
it's basically Jim Hill is the fourth one in line.
Yeah, agree. He's got a smooth voice. He's very professional about everything that he does. He's multi-sport, so he's like all over the place. He doesn't mind covering, pretty much everything from Lakers to Chargers to Rams to Dodgers, unfortunately. But it's still nice to hear him talk about it. So, and he gets those insight. Like I said, just a very professional guy. So that's kind of a cool take. I didn't get to see that.
Yeah, it was pretty awesome. Like I said, it's just nice to it's nice to see Harbaugh there, but it was weird seeing the picture of him and Spanos up there holding the helmet together. And like, Spanos actually did something right. Let's see if it pays off.
Yeah, finally. I guess he knew bringing the team to LA, even if it was riding off the back of the Rams, was the smart thing to do.
Well, when you
Although
don't got to
I
pay
still
to
think
build the
they
stadium, somebody else builds it for you. It's kind of nice too.
it's beautiful, right? Yeah, it's nice. Can we just borrow this? I mean, whenever you're not using it, we'll just, kind of show up. Okay, no problem. We'll stick with the Ravens, kind of. Finally, a new head coach has been announced for the Seattle Seahawks. It is former Ravens defensive coordinator Mike McDonald. Was announced this Wednesday. It's a 6-year deal.
It's a long
They
time.
seem to like, yeah, that well. I mean, I feel like these coaches are asking for that because a couple things. One, they need patience, but two, they need like that reassurance that like one, you trusted me, and
True.
two, that I'll get paid.
Yeah, but I
So,
feel like typically they say it takes what 3 years to like the third year is when your implementations and the guys you wanted to come in kind of like start to take effect. So I feel like a 4 or even a 5 year deal makes sense because if you get through 3 and it's not working, there's just a year or two on the back end. But 6 years for a first time head coach and the youngest coach in the NFL now.
wow, which is just because there was already a youngest coach in the NFL with one of the hirings who just passed McVay,
Yep.
so he undercuts that. I think I don't even know what I think. I think it's a good hire, but they seem to like defense, even though a lot of the league is going more towards the offensive side of the ball. So we'll see how it kind of ends up. But his defense was a freaking monster this past. Now, granted, they didn't seem to get it done. Well, actually, no, they did get stuff done in the conference title game against the Chiefs. It was the other side of the ball that I think was actually the problem.
Yep.
So he's taken his talents to Seattle, which is good and bad. Good for him, but bad for me as a Cardinals fan. Is another freaking great
True.
defensive mind that Kyler Murray has to compete against. What does it show here? Ranked in the top 3 in scoring defense in each of the last 2 years, and leading the league in just 16.5 points allowed per game, which is exactly what the Chiefs scored. They they scored
That's
17.
true.
It's just
17. Wow, I didn't even
yeah,
notice that when I put the stats in there.
that's funny. Yeah, so it should be a good hire. Learning from John and apparently Jim. Oh, he was under Jim at Michigan. Nice. Okay,
Yeah, he
good
was in
pickups.
Baltimore first, I guess, working for John. Then he went to Michigan and did 2 years there as a defensive coordinator. Then came back to Baltimore to be their defensive coordinator. So just kind of working his way through the Harbaughs, I guess.
That sounds kind of weird, but I know what you mean. Working his way under that sounds weird too. Never mind. Let's just leave it at that. But the other actual, we could kind of move on. The other big head coaching vacancy that was finally filled today, especially after Ben Johnson confirmed that he's heading back to Detroit. The Commanders officially move on to Dan Quinn, former Cowboys defensive
Yeah.
coordinator, as their head coach. Uh, there's a lot of former Cowboys coordinators moving to other NFC East teams. Kellen Moore, obviously, offensive coordinator now for the Eagles, and now Dan Quinn, head coach for the Commanders. I
Yeah.
think it's a pretty good hire. I don't know how much he is on a culture guy. I know the Falcons were decent. They had obviously one Super Bowl run where they famously blew a 28-3
Yeah.
lead. But I think, being the defensive guy, he really better come up with find a smart offensive coordinator to kind of lead this, obviously young, because they're probably looking to draft a quarterback this year, an up and coming offense. So he'll have the defensive side of the ball handled. Cowboys were pretty legit this past year. So what do you think of it?
I'm with you. I think it's a smart thing. Not only do you get a coach who's defensive minded for a young team that's up and coming, but you also take a coordinator from your division rival, which now you have a little more intel of maybe how the Cowboys are going to run the offense and things that you can do to stop them. Because
Hmm.
obviously, practicing against them for the last couple of years as he's been there, and the Cowboy defense has been really good. Now, let's be honest, Micah Parsons is a big part of that, but the scheme itself and what they do is all why Dan Quinn was there for as long as he was, and has kind of been a highly touted coaching prospect the last few years. He was in Seattle as a defensive coordinator before he went to the Falcons, so he's definitely been to a Super Bowl and won as a defensive coordinator back in the day. He's been to a Super Bowl as a coach, as you said, but ultimately lost to Brady and them in the craziest comeback of all time. But the weird thing to me is now that he's got to start putting his own staff together, there's talks and rumors out there that every interview he did go into, even if it was in Seattle, he keeps bringing up Chip Kelly as a possible offensive coordinator, which I think is kind of one weird that Chip would come back to the pros after the way it ended so badly for him in his trip in
Hmm.
Philly, but also it's kind of late in the year for college coaches to be like head coaches at least to be leaving and going to the pros. So it's kind of an interesting. Well, I guess Harbaugh just did the same thing. That wasn't that far long ago. So maybe that doesn't make any sense what I
And we
just
have
said.
more coming up too. But yeah, I think that's crazy, especially because like on what you were talking about with this defense. The Cowboys this year outscored, or in the 2 games that they played, it was an 83 to 20
Oh,
deficit. They beat the Commanders 45-10 in Dallas, and then 38-10 in the final week of the season in Washington. So
yikes!
holding them to only 10 points, they're like, you know what? We're tired of not scoring against you. Why don't you come over here and teach us how to not have them not score against us? I think it's a pretty good one, and I think this Chip Kelly hire, if it does go through, is pretty good because he is really good. Well, used to be really good on the offensive side of the ball. Maybe he's still got it. Obviously, it's not like a player where he's like losing something with age, but just kind of being out of touch with the pro style offenses for some time, being the head coach of UCLA for a while now. It could be something that might take a while to get some adjustments to, but I think it would be pretty good, to be
I
honest
think
with you.
it would be too. Now that I think about it, also he's coming from the college game and is an offensive minded guy. So drafting a quarterback with their first pick,
Oh.
that presumably he's got a couple guys from the Pac-12 that are talked about as first round picks. Maybe he has some intel of Bo Nix and
Michael Penix.
thank you. I was like Penix Jr. So just something to think about as they move forward. And then not that he coaches at Oregon now, he coaches at UCLA, but he did coach at Oregon to make them the thing they were with the way they did the fast paced offense. Maybe he has an idea of what Bo Nix can do, and maybe offense they can kind of coordinate around him. So it'd be interesting to see if they actually go through with it and hire him.
I like it. I like it. We'll see. We'll see. More to come, obviously. He just got the head coaching gig the other, or well, I think it was actually today. So he's got a moment. But although we said that, and Raheem Morris filled out his staff in like 2 days, so I guess
Yeah, true.
maybe by the time Monday comes, he'll have everything kind of sorted out. But I know that Ron Rivera is not going to be there in any capacity.
Yeah.
I know he was just the head coach, but he can still be a defensive coordinator, right?
Yeah, well, there's talk of him going somewhere else, so we'll see what happens with him as well.
Exactly. One of my new favorite quarterbacks is CJ Stroud. I've talked about it endlessly on this podcast for a handful of reasons. He's extremely talented, and we share the same love for Jesus together. And he gets to keep his offensive coordinator. Bobby Slowick was one of the big names that were going to be out there for a possible head coaching position because of what he was able to do with this 3-13-1 Texans team and helping CJ Stroud and this pretty like unknown offense. Again, his biggest weapons were Tank Dell and who's the other guy's name? He actually played towards the end of the season.
I'm trying to think. That's the thing. They were so no name. I can't even remember who they were. But the fact that they were able to do what they did is, kind of goes to Slowick and how he's able to build an offense.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I really like it. So he agreed with the to return to Houston on a new deal in the past couple of days, and apparently he got a nice raise out of it.
I would hope so after the way they had the season they had. Plus, in coaching, if there's no salary cap when it comes to coaches in the rosters, so might as
Oh
well
yeah,
pay him as
true.
much as you can to keep him around. If something works, don't get rid of it, right? Especially if you're
Yeah.
CJ Stroud, like you just had possibly Offensive Rookie of the Year award coming to him, and if you want to continue to build on that, then if you're Slowick, why would you want to go somewhere else and have to start all over with possibly somebody who's not nearly as good or doesn't have the talent that you just had the ability to make look really, really good this past year?
And I mean, it was 1 year. You know what I mean? It's
True.
I'm not saying that he can't be a head coach, but maybe he wants to kind of try to get his wits about him and really run another offense and see what this Texans team can do. He was extremely instrumental in getting CJ Stroud to excel, and I
Absolutely.
guess we shall see. Exciting stuff. Exciting stuff.
Yeah, for the Texans of all teams.
Oh yeah, I know, right? I know that's kind of in your division, so it's not
Yeah,
too
we're
helpful. But
rebuilding, so it's okay. As long as it's not Jaguars, I don't want to see them win anymore. The Titans and them have had a rough rivalry the last few years, so I'm kind of over Jacksonville. So yeah, go Houston.
and I know you already don't like the Colts, so
Yeah, we don't have to go over that
Peyton Manning's
anymore.
hurt your feelings a lot. Yeah, okay, I'm sorry. Well, moving on. Moving on. Let's get out of the AFC South. We're gonna head over to we're staying in the AFC, but we're gonna move to the AFC East. West. I don't know why I said that. Sorry, West. Raiders made a coordinating hire today. Cliff Kingsbury has
Yeah,
been named as the new offensive coordinator. He's got a couple things that he's famous for. One is he helped coach Patrick Mahomes when he was in college. So there's that cool thing. He was the former head coach for the Cardinals. We had Kyler Murray. That was his main guy. He was appointed head coach when the Cardinals had the number one pick. Took Kyler Murray. Kyler Murray's been doing decent. The team not so much, but the only thing with Kyler is he's hurt too much.
that is the
Um,
biggest issue.
yeah, one of the things that you and I were talking about before this, though, and I'll let you kind of expand on it, is he is a throw first type of coordinator. He's known for the air raid offense. And, this is no shot at Aiden O'Connell, but that's the only guy that I know that's on the team. They might be trying to move up to draft. And what did you say that Antonio Pierce was looking to do this year?
Well, Antonio Pierce being a linebacker formerly and a defensive guy, his whole thing is grit and grind, win the battles in the trenches. So his thing is stop the ball and then also run the ball, run the ball. So to bring in a coordinator who just throws the ball seems kind of counterintuitive to me, or counterproductive to me. But maybe they have a plan, like you said. Maybe they want to move up in the draft and possibly get somebody like I don't know Daniels down from LSU who won the
Jane
Heisman.
Daniels, yeah.
He was in ASU as the quarterback when Antonio Pierce was an assistant there. So maybe there's like something they can move up a little bit and get him, since he did win the Heisman, but he's not being talked about as high of a draft pick compared to Caleb Williams or even Drake May. So maybe if you're the Raiders, you can trade up a little bit and maybe get him. And then maybe Kingsbury sees something in him that he saw in Mahomes. I mean, he did have Mahomes and was able to recruit him at Texas Tech and do what he did. Now, they didn't win necessarily a lot there, but that's because they're in the Big 12 and nobody plays defense. So they scored like 45 points, but they gave up like 48. So that's part of the problem.
Yeah, I can see that. And Jaden Daniels has a freaking cannon. I've seen some of those highlights at LSU, and that dude can play. So
Yeah.
I think it's if that is the plan, that kind of matches up pretty well.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. Let's see. Like I said, I thought Kingsbury for sure was going to go to Chicago since there was the whole they have the number one pick. They could take Caleb. He had already coached Caleb last year at SC, so there'd be like a continuity and knowing what his strengths and weaknesses are. But again, maybe they have a bigger plan that we don't know about yet.
Very true. Very true. Let's keep it on the West, but we're going to move over to the NFC side of the ball. The Rams actually have made a promotion. They have lost a bunch of staff, obviously, to Raheem Morris moving to the Falcons. He took dang near half the staff with him. So they promote their pass rush coordinator and linebacker coach, Chris Shula, to the defensive coordinator position. Shula's been with the Rams since 2017 and was now obviously part of the Super Bowl run. So got some continuity there. He knows in general, what they want to do as a whole with the pieces that they have. So I think that'll be pretty interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, the Rams on the defensive side of the ball, besides Aaron Donald, are super young. So if they have all of them coming back, and again, they're not paying them very much money because they're on cheaper rookie deals, then again, something that you can grow upon and like you said, keep some continuity on that side of the ball and let McVay continue to do his thing on offense. Because every year McVay loses, it seems like 2 or 3 coaches on his staff, but he just seems to get somebody else in there, which I thought was interesting too, because there was talk about them bringing Brandon Staley back, who was the defensive coordinator
Oof.
before he took the head coaching job with the Chargers, but obviously McVay decided against that.
Yeah, he saw what he did with the Chargers, and he was like, you know what? Never mind.
Can't
I
say I
think
blame
we're
him.
good. Chris, come on up, buddy. Come on up. Which I kind of like, dude. I like giving new people, a chance. I'm not saying that Brandon Staley's not deserving of another chance. I'm just saying let's kind of let it cool off. Because remember that one time, what happened? Oh, the Raiders blew his ass out of the
So bad.
water.
So bad.
So, if you can't stop the Raiders, what good are you going to be stopping the Seahawks, the Niners, and as much as we're not great, they do have a pretty decent offense when Kyler's on the field, the Cardinals.
True.
So I think it's kind of smart that he's, just promoting from within. Like you said, McVay losing people,
It
bro.
just
All you got to do
happens.
is have dinner with the guy. You know what I mean? You're like, all
For
right, we
real.
need that guy on our team.
Yeah, absolutely. And you look at all the assistants that have left to go take head coaching jobs now. Raheem Morris, we'll see how that pans out. And Staley maybe being the one bad one, but the coach in Cincinnati, the coach in Minnesota, like they all were with McVay, and then they turned those teams into like competitors, especially the Bengals going to the Super Bowl with Zach Taylor as their coach and ultimately losing to the Rams. So again, just keep poaching coaches from McVay, man, and hopefully it
True.
works out. Besides
Yeah,
Staley, they've all been good.
True. Well, okay, so we need to pick offensive coaches from McVay because Kevin O'Connell is a huge offensive guy. That's the
True.
Vikings head coach.
Thank you. I
Did
can remember
work
his name.
when, yeah, it's okay. I had to look it up too, to be honest with you. I thought it was Kevin O'Connell, but I just searched it to double check. But he did work with a healthy Kirk Cousins. That team was rolling. That team could score. Was he the head coach when they came back from that crazy deficit? There's like the biggest comeback in NFL history. I don't know if he was,
I
but
don't
if he
know on the
was,
timeline on that, to be honest.
that's a example of it. So excited for it. That's good. Bring up people that Chris Shula. Congrats on the promotion.
And it's funny
This is
that not only do the Rams tend to have coaches like the assistants that leave and pan out, like the organization itself seems to be very well run. Stan Kroenke is one of the best owners in not just football but on all of sports. He had that run where the Avalanche, who he owns in the NHL, won the Stanley Cup. The Rams won the Super Bowl. The Nuggets won the NBA title last year. And I know not a lot of people pay attention to the NLL, which is the National Lacrosse League, which is in box lacrosse indoor. The Colorado Mammoth won their title in the same right after or right before the Nuggets, and they had or the Avalanche, and they had like a combo parade with both of them at the same time. So Kroenke is kind of like Magic Johnson. Everything he touches seems to turn to gold and win. So keep it up.
that's a great point. I like that. Yeah, he's very good owner. He's the kind of owner that just hires the right people and stays the fuck out of the way.
Facts. I wish Jerry Jones would take some notes.
We are going to talk about Jerry Jones, but before that, because we have another hire. As we know, we pointed out a couple episodes ago, the Packers fired their defensive coordinator. While he doesn't give up a lot of points, they give up a ton of yardage, and they have since hired Boston College head coach, or former Boston College head coach, Jeff Hafley. He was the head coach of Boston College since 2020. But this is kind of what I want to talk about in relation to what possibly Chip Kelly could be, grabbing to get out of here for.
Ooh,
Chip
good point.
Kelly, Jim Harbaugh, Jeff Hafley, a lot of these big names in college. Again, Harbaugh pulling people with him. They just want to get out. There was a ESPN article that I read, and it kind of quoted someone close to Hafley who's talked to him about kind of what's going on in the college landscape. Let me read you this quote. I want your opinion on this.
For sure.
College coaching has become fundraising, NIL, and recruiting your own team and
Yes.
transfers. There's no time to coach football anymore, and a lot of things that Hafley, went back to college for have basically disappeared. Ooh, that's kind of a harsh
I
reality for
mean,
what the NCAA football is these. Well, I guess NCAA in general.
yeah, I mean, he's not wrong. And I know the big part of is recruiting your own players, because if you don't win or you don't keep them happy, they can transfer at any point in time and don't have to sit out a year like they used to, and they can go, to another school in their 4 or 5 years of eligibility. So I get that. And yeah, like once you recruit them to be on the team and be in your school or your program, I feel like it. I mean, again, I'm not against the college players being able to transfer, because if a
Yeah,
coach can up and leave, then the players should be able to up and leave. But it's just
agreed.
so frequent. Nobody stays for more than a year or two at a lot of these places. I think it was JT McDaniels or JT Daniels, and used to be at SC. Then he went to Georgia. Then he ended up playing for 4 different schools in 5 years. Like, how do you have any option or ability to get good and get better in a sense and have any continuity if you're just constantly changing teams and offenses and wide receivers every year? You have no way to actually show what you can do. So I kind of actually agree with him on this. And until you brought up Chip Kelly, even though we talked about him earlier, now it makes a lot more sense why he might be open to leaving UCLA, because UCLA is not is a state school, so they don't have the funding that other colleges do, and
Down the
apparently they
street like
don't give him
SC.
a lot of NIL leeway in order to get guys. And he's also one of those guys that I think his saying was books and ball. Like, he's there to coach football, and he's there for those players to go to school and learn. Like, he's not worried about anything else on the exterior. And if the college
Shouldn't.
game is continuing to change in the way that he doesn't want to do it, I guess the pros makes a lot more sense for him.
Yeah. Again, neither of us are against the kids making money. The NCAA
Absolutely.
is a billion-dollar industry, so sharing with the people who are actually doing something, we wholeheartedly agree with. Again, like Corey reiterated, being able to transfer. If a coach can leave, the player should be able to leave too. We agree with all that too. But it's started to become a mess to where the
Yes.
coach is not coaching, as Halfley put it, and you're just doing a bunch of recruiting. Now, it's one thing to lose, like you said, a receiver or a DB to the draft, right? Because he's getting
Absolutely.
drafted and he's moving on. Great for him. But to have to constantly re-recruit your own team because they might go to a different school, it just seems tiresome. It's like a year-round job. And we were talking about it during the bowl season. That's the time you do it. I mean, some of these teams are trying to get ready for their bowl games while the coaches have to go on recruiting trips to try to get people to either stay or come to their school to play. It's just become a giant mess, and
Yeah.
that's why Saban's leaving. And it's just there's a bunch of people that are kind of trying to get out of the college game, and it's kind of might be why. I
Yep.
think what they really need to do, and Colin talks about this a lot. It's a billion-dollar industry that has no commissioner, no like CEO of sorts,
Hmm.
no board that can direct it. It's just a bunch of people making up a bunch of freaking rules on all these new things. Like I said, we agree with NIL. We like the fact that the players are getting some of this money, but my goodness, this seems to be just spiraling out of control.
Yeah, and I think in the article you're talking about too, that the article also included the fact that he said that part of the reason is what he's leaving for, but a way to fix it would be to kind of create a CBA in a sense for these college football players, so that they are able to get some money. So maybe the NIL doesn't become as important, because then everybody would be splitting out of the pot. But as long as the NCAA, which is a terrible organization, even though we watch
Yep.
college football in the playoff and we watch NCAA basketball March Madness, but them as an organization never know what they're doing, don't do the right thing, and tend to be 5 steps behind whatever the thing is that's happening, instead of being ahead of it and trying to make a plan or a situation that would work for everybody. And it's just a terrible organization overall. It needs to be disbanded. And especially football. I think Chip Kelly talked about this a while back, where I don't know why college football doesn't just do its own thing and become independent. And like at Notre Dame football is an independent. Every other sport they have in their school stays in the ACC, but football is its own thing. Every other college should do the same thing. Just have the Power 64, and then you can have the lower level and like the non-Power 5 people. But Keep football in its
FBS.
own entity and its own thing, so that way it doesn't affect because all the Pac-12 teams moving to the Big Ten. If you're talking about golf and you're talking about gymnastics and cross country, all these teams in California, USC and UCLA, have to travel to Rutgers, which is in New Jersey. Why,
Hmm.
it's too much travel for these kids when they're already in school on
Maryland,
top of it. Yeah,
Ohio,
Maryland. Yeah,
Michigan.
exactly. Stay on the West Coast, go ASU and Arizona and Washington and Oregon. Make it easier for the school to pay for all this
Shoot,
because those sports
Utah,
are not the ones
Colorado
that
was
bringing
kind
the
of
money
far.
in. Yeah,
Hmm.
exactly. There and coming, yeah, and that's in the middle of the country coming out west. Everybody else is on the West Coast besides Arizona, which is only one time zone over half a year.
Yeah, we talked about it a little bit, and I think I even heard Coach Prime kind of joke about it. It's not really about trying to get the best player and show them that you can, try to get them to the next level. It's who can pay them the most.
Yep.
What school is going to be at what booster team, well, what team's boosters are going to be able to pay the player that they need the most money. That's what it's become. Which again, we're for the players making money, but there's just got to be some more structure around it. I'm hoping to talk about it next time because I didn't get to dive too much in the article. But there's a huge lawsuit that Tennessee is actually filing against the NCAA in
Oh,
relation to that because they were fined a bunch of money for some NIL issues. Again, I'm trying to read into it a little bit more, and we could talk about it next time. But yeah, there's a lawsuit going on from there because they just want some structure around what the heck is right, what the heck is wrong. To them, pay people money to get them to the school. That's pretty much the basics. But again, the NCAA came down and smacked the hammer on them. So we'll get into that next time when I can show you the article and read a little bit more about it.
yeah, sounds good.
There's some more quotes. This time we're gonna go back to the pros. I thought this was super weird, bro. So I thought I'd ask you what your opinion is on it. Jerry Jones was, doing his favorite thing and talking to the media because he's obviously the head coach and the star quarterback and the owner of the Dallas Cowboys.
He does it all.
He had to, yeah, he does it all. He's just the man. Which honestly, he kind of is the man if he would just stay the hell back and let people do their football jobs.
Yep.
Anyways, he goes on to talk about they're talking about Dak. Obviously, Dak's up for a contract or at least a revision or an extension, and I'm sure he's going to be wanting to get paid something similar to what Patrick Mahomes is getting paid because he feels he's one of the top quarterbacks in the league. And during the regular season, I'd give him like a B plus. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
Colin compares him perfectly, and I think this is and numbers kind of show it to more mobile Kirk Cousins.
Oh, that's
Yeah,
actually a
he's
really good comparison.
He's good. He's good. You want him in there for some regular season games. He can lead your team to some wins, and then sometimes the lights just are a little too bright for them. And I really like Kirk, so I'm not trying to put him down, but I think it's a great comparison that Colin Coward comes up with. So I thought I'd throw that out there. But anyways, here's his quote. Jerry Jones, when asked about kind of what's going on with Dak, he says, "quote Dak has done nothing to change my mind. I said it before. We would go as far as Dak takes us, and that's how far we went. I was like, you mean you get blown out in the first game?
Yeah.
So he says, so nothing changes, but nothing has changed his mind on what Dak is doing. Like, what the hell are you even talking about, bro? I thought your goal was the Super Bowl.
Yeah, that's all he talks about is wanting to win. And every year we do this. So they have a great year of the regular season. This year, especially, we're undefeated at home. They get to host in the first two rounds as long as they don't have to play San Francisco until the NFC title game.
Hmm.
And then they have a complete clunker against the 7 seed Packers, who a 7 seed has never won a playoff game until this year for the first time because of that. So, yeah, I don't know what Jerry Jones is thinking. I know I'm sure part of it is he's getting older. Obviously, he wants to try to win another Super Bowl, unfortunately, before it's all said and done. But man, you can't keep we talked about this at the end of the season with when they lost. Like, you can't keep doing the same thing over and over again and expect different results. That is the definition of insanity. So
Hmm.
I don't know what he's thinking, but again, he has to do his weekly show or radio show appearance and
Hmm.
talk to the media all the time. And it's like, dude, just get the football people in position to do their jobs and stay out of the way. And if they can't, then hire somebody who actually is going to do the job correctly.
Exactly. And that's kind of like what you were talking about with good ownership, referring back to Stan Kroenke.
Mhm.
I don't see him you know, giving weekly updates on the Nuggets or the Rams. Or
Mhm.
now, granted, maybe he owns too many damn things, so he didn't have time. Where Jerry Jones is, obviously retired from what made him, millions of dollars in order to buy the Cowboys, and all he does is focus on them. But I don't know. Just take example from people in their own league, other billionaires. Just take some notes, bro.
Yeah.
But Dak
I
has
know.
done nothing to change my mind, and we're gonna go as far as Dak takes us, and that's where he took us. Okay.
Okay, I guess.
Fantastic. That's, groundbreaking. Thank you so much for your time, Cherry. Jeez.
Good
I
luck
don't even know
next
what
year.
else to say. Yeah, exactly. Pretty much. Pretty much. Last little note here. We kind of talked about it a little bit when we were talking about CJ Stroud and Slowick returning to the Texans. I saw this little tidbit. I thought it was pretty interesting, especially because, like you said, most likely, I mean, I know Puka broke a bunch of receiving records, but it's kind of hard to take away from what CJ Stroud did in Houston as a quarterback. Obviously, the hardest position on the field, likely to win Rookie of the Year. But I saw this thing. What do you think about this? Ohio State Rookie of the Year University, dating back to 2016, a bunch of them, which is not that long ago. I mean, it's only what, 8 years, if that. Technically, 2024 hasn't happened really, so 7 years worth of rookies. 2016, Joey Bosa out of Ohio
Dang.
State wins Rookie of the Year. Now, granted, there's two sides to the ball, but at least they have one, right?
Yeah.
2017, Marshawn Lattimore out of Ohio State wins Rookie of the Year. 2019, Joey's brother, Nick Bosa out of Ohio State, Rookie of the Year. 2020, out of Ohio State, Chase Young, another defensive
Jeez.
end, Rookie of the Year. 2022, insanely good wide receiver, catching something from Zach Wilson, Garrett Wilson, Rookie of the Year on the offensive side of the ball. And here we are in 2023. CJ
Man.
Stroud most likely to win Rookie of the Year. And the crazy part is it's not just Rookie of the Year, because these are some huge names in the game.
Yeah. Yeah, big time. I mean, that's just a crazy list. And then obviously I know both Bosa's one, but the first four I believe you listed are all defensive side, and then the last two are offense. So they're doing something right in Ohio, well, Columbus. I don't know, man. It's crazy. They can't win the big game, obviously, and beat Michigan when it
Go
comes
blue.
down to it, or a
Sorry.
national title game. Sorry, Kevin. I was gonna not like that
I
fact,
know.
but
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
but the fact that they keep turning guys into the NFL and actual, legit players and winning these rookie of the years, whether on offense or defensive side of the ball, is just kudos to them, man. I guess just keep doing what you're doing. Unfortunately, you can't win the big one, but at least you're turning guys into pros, and that's ultimately what those guys go to your school for. Is you recruit them so
True.
you can get them ready for the next level, and they're proving they do that.
Very, very good point. Yeah, no, they're doing it. I'm curious who comes out of the draft this year at Ohio State. I say we put money on one of the top
Yeah, we
Ohio
might want to look
State
at
to
that.
win Rookie of the Year. Because, sheesh, that's just nice. Oh, you know what? Marvin Harrison, most likely going to get
Oh,
drafted top 4 or something this year.
if he
Offensive
ends up
Rookie of
in
the Year.
Chicago with Caleb Williams and they go off, they definitely could be in the running. Even both of them, depending on how good they both do, could be in the running for it.
Yeah, very true. I mean, I know there's talks that he could go forward to the Cardinals. Kyler Murray has a freaking cannon,
Ooh,
so
that'd
I
be
think that
good.
could be something that could help him win Rookie of the Year. Also, it also helped the team win some freaking games, so that'd be
Yeah,
nice.
well, the NFC West is not going to be easy regardless.
No, I got those stupid Niners and the freaking Rams and even the Seahawks, man. They just don't go away either, man. Yeah, it's a tough uphill climb, but you know what? We're here for it.
Well, I mean, let's look at it too. If the Niners win the Super Bowl this year, it would be the Niners have been in it twice in the last 5 years, right? And then the Rams were in it in one. So that's three NFC West teams in the Super Bowl in the last 5 years, possibly winning two of them if the Niners were able to pull it off in a week. So they're
Dang,
doing something right in the NFC West, but if you're the Cardinals,
just
it's
not
not going to be
us.
easy getting out of there.
Yeah, true. Very true. Well, you know what? Since you're bringing up the Super Bowl, we do want to talk about some fun things. There's so much to talk about with the Super Bowl, but we thought we'd take this, week and a half ahead of time episode and talk about really random, fun Super Bowl facts. Corey found a bunch of them for you. I found some weird ones towards the end here. You want to kick us off, man?
Yeah, so I was looking into, obviously this is a rematch from Super Bowl just a couple years ago down in Miami when the Chiefs beat the Niners in their first edition of this. So this will actually be the ninth time that the same two teams will face off in a Super Bowl against each other. So you're looking back at it, the Steelers and Cowboys faced off three times, Steelers having won twice, Dolphins and Washington, because I think at the time they were the Redskins back then. So they each won one in the 70s and 80s against each other. The Bengals, unfortunately, are 0-2 against the 49ers in their history, and I don't even think that either of those games were close. So Bengals fans probably don't want to talk about that one.
Yeah, no.
And then the Bills, same thing. They lost to the Cowboys not only twice, but in 2 straight years in the Super Bowl, which was part of their 4 Super Bowl run that they couldn't win
That
one.
was crazy.
Yeah, I don't know how you go to 4 and not get one of them, but hey, I mean that is sustained excellence, but also sustained losing at the same time for the Bills,
True, true.
unfortunately. Wide right. Let's not talk about it. Then you have the Patriots and Giants, which is when Eli Manning took both of them against them in 2007 and 2011.
Yeah,
The
whatever.
Pats, who beat the Rams twice recently when
Woo!
Goff and them scored 3 points against them, and it was a really low scoring game, 13-3. Then you have the last pair is the Pats and the Eagles, which they won. The Pats won the first time back in Jacksonville, I think, when Terrell Owens was in, when he broke his leg essentially for the Eagles.
Oof.
And then the Eagles were able to take Tom down a couple years back and split that series. So it's just kind of interesting to see that over the 58 Super Bowls, this will be the 9th time that we're having a rematch.
Yeah, that's the one thing I think I really like about. Thank you for all that, by the way. I think that's really interesting. But that's the one thing I like about the NFL is there's a lot more parity
Oh,
between
yeah.
people moving, between the way they do the schedule. It seems very mundane the way. But now, granted, there's a lot of games to cover in the NHL, the NBA, and obviously Major League Baseball.
Oh,
So,
yeah.
in order to play 162 and or 82 games, you need to have basically play everybody. That's the cool thing about the NFL is you don't play everybody every year. You play your division obviously twice every year. You play an opposing conference. You play an entire similar division in your conference. So I think it's just the way they kind of do the schedule. Again, you get first place, you play first place people. So kind of helps even out the playing field of it. And I just that's what I like about the NFL, to be honest with you.
Yeah, and that goes back to how we did our preseason picks back in August, how you said the fact that every year and for the last, I think, if not entire Super
20.
Bowl era, that there's always 4 new teams in the playoffs from the
Mm.
previous year that weren't in it. So again, shows you the parity of the league.
And even a team like we saw back to Dallas getting their ass kicked, like a 7 seed Packers can go in and upset somebody who many thought were Super Bowl bound, specifically Skip Bayless. So I think it's just kind of shows that any given Sunday, as the phrase kind of carries itself.
Yeah, and the one of the other facts I was able to find and look at is now that we know what team is wearing what jersey for this Super Bowl, they're actually wearing the same ones they wore the last time they faced off. The Chiefs will be in their red, and the Niners will be in white. And dating back to 2004, the team that wears white is 3-16 in that time. Overall, though, if you look at the entire previous
No, I think it's
57,
16-3, right?
oh, I thought it was white
Oh, okay.
because they were
I'll
because
double check. I
the
didn't mean to
Chiefs
cut
were
you
one of
off.
the few that didn't wear white that actually won the game. So
Right. So 16. Yeah. 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 That's what I'm saying. Because
yeah,
3 and
okay,
16 means they won. Yeah. 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 Gotcha.
yeah, and then, overall, if you look at the previous 57, the, team that wears white is actually 37-20 all time. So,
Damn.
depending on how you look at it overall or just in the last 20 years or so, it's a completely different number in the way it breaks down.
Wow, that's crazy. And yeah, obviously in their last time, the Niners were wearing white, but that didn't go their way. I'm hoping for the same thing. I don't like the Niners right now. So nothing against individual players, just more the overall team. Obviously, a Cardinals fan in my division, they just kick our ass all the time. So
Yeah, I
that's a
get you.
pretty
It's like
cool
the
one.
Colts
All
for me,
right.
man. I get it.
Exactly. Okay. I'm glad you get it. I'm glad you get it. I'll take the next one. This one actually, obviously, because it's been a minute, but actually, it's been a while. Like, what was it, like 2000? I mean, Eli Manning was in the freaking league when the Vegas Stadium was built. So this is going to be the first one in Vegas, Sin City. Bright lights, obviously, and there's just so much going on in Vegas between that Sphere. The Golden Knights are now there. They have a WNBA team there. The A's are on their way in 5 years or so. It feels like. So there's a lot going on in Vegas, and this will be the first one in Vegas. That'd be interesting.
Yeah, and I would assume they're gonna be part of the regular rotation, just like Miami and, Tampa Bay typically, and Santa Clara, as
Arizona.
we talked about, SoFi here in LA, New Orleans. Those are gonna be the normal, typical. Arizona will be the typical rotation. I would assume Vegas will be added to that, and especially with all the gambling and the partnerships between the league now at this point, because before everyone was
Ooh,
always afraid, like, "We can't go to Vegas, we can't do anything there, there's too much gambling." But now everyone's partnered up with gambling sites and companies, so I don't think that matters anymore. So it'll be interesting to see how many or how frequently they kind of rotate through those same cities.
nice. Yeah, got you. Got you. What's the next one?
So I thought this one was kind of funny. So when they talk about Purdy and how he's Mr. Irrelevant, obviously going against Mahomes, who's possibly one of the greatest of all time, if not the greatest by the time it's all said and done. But it's kind of funny. Both of their fathers actually pitched in professional baseball. Purdy's
Hmm.
dad, Sean, actually pitched 8 years in the minors from 91 to 98. The highest he ever got, though, was AAA when he pitched in it for 2 years, once with San Francisco in their system and one for the Atlanta Braves.
That's
And then
pretty
Pat
close.
Mahomes' dad, as we've talked about before, is a legit major league pitcher and was in the majors for 11 years, 92 to 03. Spent 4 years in Minnesota, a year in Boston, 2 years on the Mets. And then at the end of his career, he had a year of each in Texas with the Rangers and with the Cubs and Pirates. So it's just kind of funny. Up on the screen, you'll look right now. I have, if you're watching on YouTube, I have a picture of each of their baseball cards up on the screen, and it's just kind of funny to know that back in the day they were both pitching, and now here their sons are going off in a Super Bowl against one another.
I guess it's weird too. Pitching, both quarterbacks
Good
or
point.
both sons are quarterbacks. Must be something in the arm, you think, eh?
Yeah, definitely has to be. I mean, especially if you're Mahomes, because the way he throws the ball at different angles, he plays almost like a shortstop. So he must have been grounding a lot of balls as a kid when his dad was pitching for the majors.
I like it. I like it. So we could stay kind of with this father son duo. Another fun stat. If they win, which I hope they don't, but if the 49ers win, Christian McCaffrey and Kyle Shanahan would win a Super Bowl as a player coach combo, just like their fathers did 3 times in the 90s.
Yep.
Corey had made another graphic. We'll put that on the screen here. Ed McCaffrey and Mike Shanahan won Super Bowl 29, 32, and 33. 29 was when Mike was an offensive coordinator for the Niners, and the other two were when Mike was obviously the head coach of the Denver Broncos. So I thought that's a starting to pull stats out of nowhere, man. That's pretty good. I like that
Well,
one.
not only that, when I first saw it, I was like, oh, yeah, like I remember Shanahan coaching McCaffrey in Denver for sure for the Super Bowl. So I thought it was just father son winning a Super Bowl and father son winning a Super Bowl. But then I didn't realize that when McCaffrey was younger, he was on the Niners in the early 90s when they won against the Chargers, and that Shanahan was the offensive coordinator. So they could both not only win it together as a duo, but for the same organization 30 years apart.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy. Yeah, you're right. Because I knew he was on the Broncos because Unc talks about it all the time.
Oh,
How
yeah.
he liked actually Ed McCaffrey when they were playing for the Broncos together. So yeah, the Niners connection is something that some might forget. But dang, 3 Super Bowls for that guy. What a beast, actually. But I still think his son, granted, doesn't have the hardware per se. His son's a beast, dude. Christian is insane.
Absolutely, absolutely, and they talk about McCaffrey being at the time when he played, he was one of the better, if not one of the best wide receivers as far as blocking. So the fact that he was a blocking wide
Mm.
receiver and his son became a running back, that's kind of makes sense.
Yeah, he was like, here, this is the hole that I make. This is the hole that you take. Ah, okay, got it, Dad. Thanks. Yeah. What's the next one you got?
All right, so this one is not necessarily, I guess, a strange fact or anything, but I just thought it was a cool story that I read about how Drew Tranquil, who is a former Charger and now a linebacker for the Chiefs, in this past offseason, it was his first opportunity as a free agent to kind of peruse around and see where he wanted to go. He was kind of looking around at the league and had a couple different opportunities, but he was quoted as saying recently that he felt really honored by the way the Chiefs actually pursued him all the way from the front office down to the coaching staff. He said, Andy Reid literally texted me the morning of when I was about to make my decision, and he was like in the text, which if you're watching on YouTube, it's up on the screen for you to see. It says, let me know if you have any other questions, kind of thing. And then it says, think red, think Super Bowls. So
Nice.
obviously Andy Reid is a good recruiter. The funny part a lot of people have pointed out though is Andy Reid being for as old as he is, because he's 65, used an emoji with a wink face. And then everyone, of course, pointed out, if you're looking again on the screen on YouTube, that his battery life was down to 6% when he sent this text message. So it's kind of a funny situation how it's all put together, but hey, it worked. It got him in there. And now Tranquil, who played for the Chargers and didn't even really have an opportunity to compete for a Super Bowl, is now in one for the first time in his career.
That's freaking awesome. Yeah, I like that. I think that's why people like, especially players, really like Andy Reid. He just seems to be, as much as he is, probably arguably the second best head coach. I mean, there's a lot that I don't want to, I know there's the Shulas and, there's other
Parcells.
great, yeah, there's other great coaches, but as far as like winning goes, he's one of the winningest coaches ever, behind basically only Bill Belichick. So I think it's kind of cool that he is opposite of Bill and is actually somewhat personable.
Yeah,
Which,
definitely has
quick
more of a
quote, did you hear
personality.
that quote? I know this has nothing to do with the Super Bowl, but did you hear Tom Brady's dad the other day
No.
quoted? Because obviously Tom's not on the team anymore. Let me see if I can find the exact quote. But it's basically Tom Brady Sr. He's basically kind of ripping into Bill Belichick,
Uh-oh.
um, because he finally can.
Yeah, true.
Because his son doesn't play there anymore. Or really doesn't play at all.
I was gonna say he's
Um,
prepping for the booth for next year at this point.
Yeah, dude, that's gonna be super exciting. Fox, go watch. I feel bad for Greg Olson, but anyways. So the quote basically is something along the lines of Bill Belichick is a great coach with horrible interpersonal skills. And Andy Reid seems to be the opposite. So kind of like the guy.
Yeah, hard to argue that point there, Mr. Senior.
Very true, and he knows it very well. He spent 20 years having to deal with him, or having his son having to deal with him at least.
Yeah, and then hear about it from Tom.
Exactly, exactly. I liked this one actually too. We have a video of it, but basically, the last time that oh no, this isn't that one. George Kittle, when they were in that kind of a losing spot against the Lions, had some fun, upbeat, motivational things in his head. He knew that this was not the end of the game. What did you find here?
Yeah, so I believe I found this from NFL Films. They obviously mic up some guys on the sideline, and like you mentioned, in that first half, the second quarter, especially, it was 24-7. You're looking like I don't know if the Niners even have an opportunity to win this game, but George Kittle had something else in mind. Let's roll it.
Did you say something good up there? I said it had us in the first half, not gonna lie. They had us in the first half, not gonna lie. But, and here we are now. And I called that. I called that in the second quarter. I said, I can't wait at the end of the game. I'm gonna be able to say this to the entire world. Called it. And then we did it. I can't wait at the end of the game. I'm gonna say, hey, they had us in the first half, not gonna lie. I can't wait till after the game, and I get to say, you know what? They had us in the first half. Keep singing it. Have fun. Encourage you guys. Right? You're the guy. Take that into existence.
Well, I guess he called it, right?
I
Jeez.
mean, not only that, they had us in the first half, not gonna lie, is a famous meme that everybody used to put up online for, I think it was a high school kid that kind of said that, and they ended up coming back and winning, and he had this whole post-game speech about it. But yeah, Kittle seemed to just, he goes over to, he's talking to Juszczyk on the bench, and then he goes over to Purdy. He's like, man, just have fun. Let's go. Let's play ball, and let's see what happens. And then he literally, like he said, spoke it into existence.
Yeah, he also did that too when they were about to lose the Super Bowl against the Chiefs a couple of years ago. He's
Right.
mic'd up sitting on the sidelines and he's like, I will be back here. I will be back. We will come back. I will be back and we'll be back with a vengeance. And here they are. They're back. I hope they don't get the vengeance they seek, but they are back nonetheless.
Well, not
So
only
he
did they
just
get
seems to kind of
back,
call that kind of stuff.
yeah, not only did they get back, though, they're coming back against the same opponent with a legitimate chance to get vengeance on the team that beat him the first time. So he
Yep.
definitely saw something.
Yeah, very true. No, very true. They're a very solid squad for sure, for sure. And it's kind of cool that he's able to kind of speak that up. I like it.
And I'm thinking if you're Kittle, that you got to be getting near the end of the career, too. This might be the last run that he has in him. So he's definitely going to give it all he's got out there.
Yeah, mostly because some of the injuries, man. I still feel like he's really talented still, but he's just been having some like tough injuries, you know.
Yeah. Well, tight ends get beat up nowadays, especially because they don't just block anymore. They do a little bit of everything.
Yeah, especially in Shanahan's offense, man.
Yeah, for real.
That guy is very useful, and he's very good at his job. I will give him that. He's very good. He's very good. One of the best tight ends in the league.
Absolutely.
Speaking of tight ends, though, we have some weird Super Bowl stuff now. This one,
Oh, this is
this one's
bizarre.
weird. Yeah, this one's super weird. But we're gonna stick with tight ends ish. Travis Kelsey is famous for dating. What's that lady's name again? I always forget. Oh no, just kidding. It's Taylor Swift.
Yeah, Swifty.
So we have some Swifty madness, which is kind of some weird stuff about the Super Bowl. Taylor Swift's favorite number is 13, just like Corey. Corey's favorite number is
Ooh,
13.
love it.
Yep, right. Okay, so let me run these by you, man. All right. This is Super Bowl 58. You know what 5 plus 8 is?
Oh, no.
13. So far, she has actually attended 12 Chiefs games this season. That
Oh.
would make the Super Bowl number 13. They will be playing the 49ers. You know what 4 plus 9 is? That's right, 13.
Wow.
It is the 1-seeded Niners playing the 3-seeded Chiefs, which is, if you put them together, 13. She'll actually be finishing up her Eras tour in Tokyo the night before the Super Bowl. And guess how long the flight from Tokyo to Vegas is?
13
Yeah,
hours.
it's 13 hours. So she's going to 100% be there. And if you take 100 and you take her favorite number away, 13, what does that equal? Oh, that equals 87, which is, well, Travis
My God.
Kelsey's number. Okay. Last thing here. This is Travis Kelsey's 22nd playoff game. And she has a very, very famous song called 22.
Oh,
A
my
lot
God.
of weird. That's just
Well,
a lot, right? I mean,
not only that, you skipped one, actually. The game is
oh,
on February 11th,
oh
2/11.
yeah.
2 plus
2
11 is
plus 11.
13.
13. Dang. Bro,
Yeah.
it's just a lot of 13 going on. And
The
it seems
numerology
damn
of
near
how
destined.
things line up like that sometimes just blow my mind. Because remember, after, obviously, unfortunately, Kobe passed, there was the 24-second shot clock that everyone took a penalty for, the 8-second half-court clock as well. And then the Lakers win the title at one point. They were up 24-8 in the bubble at one point. I mean, it's just sometimes the numbers thing just blows my mind how that kind of works out.
I love it. I'm not a fan of 13. I've always told Corey that. It's probably one of my least favorite numbers. But I like the idea of the numbers matching up. I think that's pretty cool.
Crazy.
We have another weird one that I found, and I'll have a slide up on the screen for you guys to see. There's preliminary lunar analysis showing that the day of the Super Bowl, the moon will actually be in waxing crescent phase. We have a picture
That's
of
my
what
favorite
waxing
phase.
crescent. Yeah.
That's my
Okay. Good.
favorite
See, I
phase.
knew that you would. I know that you are super into watching the moon, so I knew that you would understand this. For those who aren't exactly lunar experts like Corey is, we have a picture of what a waxing crescent phase moon looks like. We also have the Chiefs' record when they play a game on a day where there is a waxing crescent phase moon. They are 19-1 in the past
Wow.
5 years when the moon is in that phase. So more random Super Bowl facts for you to know. Again, we're going to do actual game breakdown and stuff like that next week, but we have to fill this week with some fun stuff. And I thought that'd be a kind of a, besides all the cool, like historical facts that Corey was able to find, I thought it'd be kind of funny to kind of wrap up with some Taylor Swift and moon phase talk.
Hey, again, numerology is a thing, and some people are super into the moon. I always know when something weird is going on, or if like you have a bunch of weird customers or situations at work. My first question is it a full moon? What is happening right now? That's always my first question. So I'm not completely against the moon phase idea.
All right. Well, see, here you go. I made sure to throw this in here for you. I know what the lunar expert you are, so that works out here.
Oh.
Enough about football, though. Enough about football. We'll have more to talk about as the week goes on. We'll probably talk about some of the coordinating hires after the couple head coaching positions were filled. And obviously, we have a lot to talk about leading up to the Super Bowl in a couple Sundays from now. But we'll move on to the baseball diamond. There's been some kind of crazy stuff happening. Namely, this one right here. John Angelos is the current owner of the Baltimore Orioles, and he is selling his team to a group led by the Carlyle Group, co-founder David Rubenstein. He's selling it for $1.725 billion, bro.
Man.
Sheesh.
That is a lot of dough. I believe I read somewhere that when they bought the team, they paid like $173 million for it back in the day. So, and that was 30 some years ago. So I'd say it's a
literally
good
100
return on your
times.
investment there.
Yeah. That's crazy, into the billions. But I think it's good. I mean, I don't know of any like poor ownership group. It's not like, people wanting to get the Clippers guy out, or was it Snyder for the Redskins?
Yep.
It's not like that type of thing from my understanding, at least, that he needs to get out or anything. They've been kind of bad, but they've drafted really well, and they had a great season, although it ended short this past season. But they got a lot of young talent, and they look pretty promising. They won the AL East, right?
Yeah, they did. They had I think the best record in the AL, which like we talked about when we did our postseason stuff for baseball, that the teams with the top records, I think the only one that moved on in the first round was Houston. So they were one of the teams that got swept 3 games out of 5 in that first round. But yeah, like you talked about, a really young up and coming team. But a part of the reason that they're a young and upcoming team is their owner, Angelos, who was selling the team, a couple years ago talked about how he didn't want to spend too much money, and that if they spent too much, then all the prices would rise, and for the fans, and the fans were pissed because the whole point of owning a team is to try to win. So I think the fans in Baltimore are more than happy for him to sell the team and get out of the organization. Now there is some details to it. There is a lot of minority owners included, which is Cal Ripken Jr., who played for the Orioles for about 20 or 21 years, Hall of Famer and World Series winner. Former NBA player Grant Hill is also part of the group. Mitchell Goldstein, and Michael Smith, who co-ed the Aries Credit Group. Former Baltimore Mayor Kurt Schmoke, if I'm saying that right. Mike Bloomberg, who's an entrepreneur and philanthropist, and then Michelle Kang, who's a business leader, and I think she owns, I want to say, the Washington Mystics, possibly in the WNBA. But there's a lot of minority owners involved. Part of the Angelos family too is like I said, they bought the team back in '93, but Angelos's son John has been the team's chair since 2020. Because Peter unfortunately suffers from dementia, so he kind of had to step away and let the kid kind of take over. And I think that's where the fans kind of got upset with him running the team and the way he was talking about it. One good thing though is they're not going anywhere. They're not leaving Baltimore anytime soon. They did sign a deal with the Maryland Stadium Authority to remain at Camden Yards for the next 15 years, but also with
wow.
some verbiage in there that it could end up committing to 30 years total, which I've been to Camden Yards. Honestly, it's one of
It
the
looks
best
beautiful
stadiums
on
in
TV.
baseball.
Is it?
It's so nice considering how it's like, I think 30 or 35 years old at this point, but one of the best stadiums. They have between right field pole and basically center field, it's called Utah Street, which is spelled EUTAW. And during the week, and it's like a normal street, you can walk up and down it. There's restaurants right there, but when it becomes game time or game day, they block off the street and you have to have a ticket to get into that area. They use the old warehouses or train station across from the stadium behind right field as the front offices building for the team organization. And it's just, honestly, I didn't expect a whole lot out of it going there, but one of the better stadiums that I've been to, and I've been to 25 out of the 30 baseball stadiums. So it's pretty high up on my list. I'd probably say top
It's kind of
5.
like Yawkey Way
Yes,
in
exactly. Same
Boston.
thing in Boston.
Okay.
Yep, same concept.
I just love the brick that you see from from at least from TV. Again, I haven't been there yet, but it's just a beautiful looking stadium. I just remember
Yeah,
that.
and
So.
actually in right field, if you hit a home run over there and it goes onto Utah Street, they have markers on the floor that tell you who hit a home run that hit that spot and when it was.
Oh wow!
And the most famous one is Ken Griffey Jr. during the All-Star Game home run derby actually hit one off the building over there. So there's one on the brick wall right by the entrance to one of the restaurants.
Jeez. Well, one of the sweetest swings, if not the sweetest swing ever. I wouldn't put it past Ken Griffey Jr. to do it. So that's cool.
Yeah,
That's some good bit of
absolutely.
history. I like that.
And then,
I,
not only did they sell the team, literally that happened yesterday. And then today, the new ownership group, even though they haven't completely taken over yet, already made a move and went out and made a trade to get Corbin Burns from the Brewers today. So they have an ace going into next season now, too.
Yeah, that's good because that's one of the things that you need in the postseason, which they exited quite quickly, is a great starting. Now, granted, there's a lot of pieces, but great starting pitching to get you through at least 6 innings is one of them. And them getting out of the first round, this was definitely a piece that they needed. Looks like Milwaukee is going to get shortstop Joey Ortiz, left-handed DL Hall, and the 34th pick in this draft for in exchange for it. And Ortiz is actually Baltimore's number 6 ranked prospect. So as much as, but they have so much freaking young talent, dude. They could get rid of some of their prospects. I think they have 3 years in a row. They have the number 1 prospect drafted, including Adley Rutschman. So they're just a wealth of talent, especially young talent, at least, or at least very promising talent. So giving up their 6th ranked prospect for a solid starting pitcher seems like a great deal to me.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you look at it, not only has Burns been good, I mean, he's been good in Milwaukee. And they made the playoffs, I think, 5 of the last 6 years, but they've been an early exit. They haven't gotten very far. But the last 3 seasons, he went 11-5 with a 2.4 ERA, 12-8 with a 2.9, and then last year 10-8 with a 3.3. So very good. I think he's a 3-time All-Star these last 3 years. Just a solid. He's been in the top 10 of Cy Young pitching voting in the 4 consecutive years as well, not only having won it in 2021 on his own. So very good ace to have at the top of the rotation. Very veteran experience as far as being in the playoffs. I think as long as they can stay healthy and they continue growing with this team, I mean, they won 100 games last year, I think. So something to build on for the future. And if these new owners come in and actually want to spend the money and bring other talent in to make them better, I think it's a win-win for everybody.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. He actually ranks 2nd among all pitchers with a 17.9 WAR, win above replacement. That's pretty good.
I would say that's damn good,
2nd?
especially, again, being in Milwaukee. It's not like I think Milwaukee's the smallest market in baseball. And again, they've been competitive the last 5 to 6 years, and he's been a big part of it.
Yep. I like it. Got a couple of other signings. The Blue Jays signed Justin Tucker to a 1-year deal. Got $13 million. Justin Tucker. Justin Turner, sorry, former Dodger, former Red Sox, got a 1-year deal worth $13 million. You actually had, though, like not funny, but like a crazy stat about the money that he'll be making. What happened with the contract with the Red Sox?
Yeah, so like you said, he signed a 1-year deal for 13. There's some contract includes some bonuses and stuff for 1.5, so it could be 14.5 million at the end of the year. But last year he signed a 2-year deal with the Red Sox for 22.7. The second year was a player option. He took home 8.3 though in 2023, and also received a 6.7 buyout to get off the option. So essentially, he got $6 million to go away from Boston. Got another 13, possibly 14 from them. So he's looking at making almost 20 million this year in just a 1-year deal. So win-win for Turner, especially, he started out as a not so good prospect for the Mets before he came to the Dodgers and really got his career around. And unfortunately, even though he was a Dodger, he is a former Cal State Fullerton Titan, so I have to root for him.
Okay, there you go. Nice. Go
He was
Titans.
actually
Woo.
there. I think he was a part of the last time they won the College World Series back in, I think that was 04, maybe. It was right before we went to college, and I was
I was
actually
gonna
there, and
say,
he
did
was
we
already
go?
gone.
Ah, burn. Okay.
Yeah, he
Hey.
had already left by then.
Okay, well, hey, that's not a big deal. That's cool. That's cool. More trades. Jorge Polanco traded to the Mariners. Was an All-Star in 2019. Minnesota will get relief pitcher Justin Topa, starting pitcher Anthony Descafali, and outfield prospect Gabriel Gonzalez, along with right-handed pitching prospect Darren Bowen and some cash. Sheesh, bro, what a haul! That seems like a lot of players. Now, granted, obviously the talent you'll have to see for some of these prospects, but Jorge Polanco on his way to Seattle.
Yeah, well, he's a former All-Star for them in 2019, and I mean Jerry Dipoto, the GM of the Mariners, is Mr. Trade. He makes more trades, I think, than if you look at the numbers since he's been there, he's made more trades than any other GM in baseball.
Oh,
So not
jeez.
shocking he made another deal. I mean, Descafani, who you mentioned, got traded to Minnesota. He was already traded from San Francisco to Seattle not even a month ago. So again,
Oh,
multiple
jeez.
pieces moving if you're Jerry Dipoto, but I think big part of it is it gives the Mariners a more productive bat in the middle of the lineup and on the field at second base because they started last year at second base Josh Rojas, who was a former Diamondback and part of a trade with us. But his bat is just not as good as his glove. His defense is great, but his offense is not. So this is kind of the way to kind of get up for that. They'll probably platoon them a little bit at second base, and it gives the Mariners a little bit more pop, especially after they traded Eugenio Suarez to the Diamondbacks, who they lost at third base, who was kind of one of their big guys on at least the power side of the lineup last year.
Got you. Yeah, I mean, hey, that I was actually saw this reel where somebody was breaking down the his opinion of like the roster rate. He was giving like a power rankings of for hitting for the lineup, and the Mariners were kind of mid pack towards the end because he just didn't see a lot of pop. They have what's the Rodriguez or
Yeah,
who's
Julio
their
Rodriguez.
yeah, Julio Rodriguez. They have him, but beyond that, they just have a bunch of like average players as far as hitting goes. So adding some additional pop to that middle of the lineup, like you talked about, that's pretty good. 33 homers and 152 games. That's good.
Not
Yeah,
bad.
30 home runs and 100 RBIs to me, that's a solid, middle of the lineup hitter, the 3-4 spot. So
Oh yeah, especially these days because if you're getting 30 home runs, you're technically not. Most guys, at least, are not hitting for average. On top of that, so Polanco's a little more of a
Kyle
average hitter,
Schwarber.
higher average hitter, and he still has some pop. Analytics. But Jerry Dipoto, man, again, Mr. Trades, and the Mariners seem to be around 82 to 85 wins almost every year, the last 4 or 5, and competing for a wild card spot. Although this year didn't quite get into the playoffs because
Close
Houston
though.
and Texas took the spots.
Yeah. Former Angels GM, right?
Yeah, yep, he was an Angel GM as well until Artie Moreno ran him out of town because Artie Moreno just does that.
When has Artie Moreno run himself out of town?
Oh, well, he tried to do it last year and then he gave up and lied and said he wasn't going to sell the team. So I guess
Yeah,
never.
well, that sucks. He should team up with Jerry, apparently. Get his own
Oh,
show going about how to ruin
them and the
franchises.
Spanoses, man. Those are the worst three owners in sports.
Hey, they got Harbaugh.
Yeah,
Okay.
well,
It could
the
could be
Angels
some
got
redeeming.
Otani and that didn't do anything either. So.
Not wrong. Not wrong. Okay. All right. You got me there. You got me there. We'll stick with big bats though. Or at least, this one's a little bit bigger than Polanco, no offense. Finally, the show is coming out with their cover athlete, and it is Vladimir Guerrero Jr.
Heck
Going to
yeah.
be the cover of MLB The Show. This is going to be the first father-son combo to ever be on the home run, or to ever be the home run, to ever be the cover of the baseball game. Because obviously Vladimir Guerrero Sr. was when he was playing for the Angels, right?
I believe so. Yeah, 2006 he was on the cover. I think that's the year actually he won the home run derby in San Francisco when he first came over to the Angels.
Oh, okay. See, I think they're also the first father-son combo to have won a home run derby when Vladimir Guerrero won last summer. So the junior, obviously, sorry, I didn't mean to say that. They're both the same name, but when Junior won last summer, so that's kind of a cool spot. We got a picture of the cover. It's kind of cool. They're trying to make it jazzed up. So we'll show you a picture of the cover on the screen, and I think it's kind of cool. I mean, it's not like, oh, now I don't. Do they get extra money for being? I'm assuming they get
I would
money for being
assume,
on the
yeah.
cover,
There's got
right?
to be
Yeah.
some kind of compensation there. It's a player's name and rights. You have to give them something to put them on the cover, I would assume.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. So good for Vladdy Jr. I know you are a huge show fan.
Oh, yeah.
What's the most recent one you played? This past one?
Oh yeah, Jazz Chisholm's on the cover. I've got it on my PlayStation 5. I play it pretty regularly. And not only is it cool that Vlad Guerrero Jr. is on the cover, I actually before I started working at the Ducks, I actually worked for the Angels in merchandise back in
Mhm.
2007 to 2012, and Vladdy was on the team, and they were winning division titles every year. It seemed like.
It was actually
So
good.
where we used to clock in and count in our merch before we went to our stands to sell merch, the players actually had to walk from their parking lot to the clubhouse, and they would walk past us all the time. So I actually saw Vladdy Jr. as a kid walking down the hallway with his dad
Oh,
all
freaking
the time. Yeah,
way.
like I used to see them all
Ah,
the time. Vladdy was, he always. This seems like a pretty common thing, but a lot of those players who are Dominican or Puerto Rican or whatever tend to not have a lot of English during their post game press conferences. You can hear them talking English when they go down the hallway all the time. But
they pretend they're like, I don't
yeah,
have much to say.
exactly. But yeah, Vladdy Jr. was just a little chunky kid, man, when he used to walk down the hallway with his dad all the
Still a little
time.
chunky. No
So
offense.
yeah, but he's slimmed down a little bit the last year or two to
Yeah,
play better at third. Well, he was a third baseman. Now they moved him to first. But yeah, I actually got to see him when he was a kid before he became famous, and is now on the cover of the game.
that's so funny. Yeah, that's cool, man. Father son competition, because it's one thing to have like your kid play, but to have two kind of great players. Because is he the Hall of Fame, or do you think he will be senior?
I think he's got to be right. I know he didn't win a World Series. He did go to two or at least one with the Rangers when they lost to the Giants in 2010. Because I know that was the whole thing is when they went to San Francisco, he had to play right field, and at that point, his legs were completely shot. He had no legs to run around and play the outfield. And playing right field in San Francisco with that big triples alley out in right center was not a good thing for him.
Yeah, just confirm he is in the Hall of Fame. He won an
Definitely.
MVP award. He's a 9-time All-Star, 8-time Silver Slugger. So, if Junior can kind of continue on this path, be kind of cool to see, just father-son duos doing work. It's nice to see because it's
Wonder.
different. It's like the Thompsons in basketball, like Michael Thompson and Klay Thompson is good. Not always do you get the father-son because sometimes you got like a Dell Curry and a Steph Curry.
Yeah. Yeah, it'll be interesting too if Vladdy Jr. can continue his career and maybe even get in the Hall of Fame himself. I wonder how many father and son duos are in the Hall of Fame of baseball because it's very hard to get in there in the first place. But
True.
I don't know, it'd be cool to see. And Vlad
I don't
Guerrero
know much that
Sr.
I play like
Dude, Guerrero
combos. The
Sr. man,
Griffies.
when he yeah, that's true. I don't know if his dad's in the Hall of Fame though. I
Yeah,
don't
I
know
don't
if he
think
was
so.
quite that good. But when Guerrero Sr. was playing, man, remember he used to hit some of the craziest pitches. I mean, they were super high and super low. One would bounce off the ground, but I know the
I was gonna
story
say
was
I literally
always.
see him bounce off the ground. Yeah, that's the one I was
Yes,
gonna
I
say.
would know he was famous when he was a kid in the Dominican that he used to play. They used to play baseball in a sense, but they would play with bottle caps and like just long twigs or sticks. So he got really good at being able to hit pretty much anything you put near him. He was going to hit the shit out of that ball.
That's sweet. Yeah, I mean, it's sad that that's what they're playing with. I don't mean that's sweet that he, but
Yeah, no, but
but I mean, it really gets the hand-eye coordination going.
hell yeah,
Just confirm Griffey Senior is not in the Hall of Fame.
I didn't think so. I didn't think he was quite
Yeah,
that good.
yeah. 3-time All-Star. Actually won All-Star MVP one of those years, and he won 2 World Series. But
Was he on
sometimes
the
it's just on
Reds
your
when they
team
won
you're
the
on.
World Series? Is that how he has two? Big Red Machine, huh?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense. That makes sense. That's why Griffey
Yeah.
went back and played for the Reds when he got older in his career because I think he was growing up there when his dad was playing for them.
Nice. Yeah. Okay. Got you. That's all we've got for baseball. But like you said a couple episodes ago, we got pitchers and catchers reporting fairly soon. I think it's like a week away or so now,
Yeah, dude,
right?
I was gonna say 10, maybe 2 weeks tops. I think we're getting really close here, and there's still a lot of signings that haven't gone down. Blake Snell is still a free agent. Be interesting to see where he
Oh
ends up.
my gosh,
So
that big names too. Shoot.
yeah, so we'll be interested. And Kenley Jansen, there's rumors he might go back to the Dodgers. I hope he doesn't. Although he has he's kind of a heart attack on the mound in the night, so maybe that'd be a good thing for them.
Seriously. Okay, so out of baseball, we got a couple of NBA notes before we kind of get out of here. Again, middle of the season, we got the All-Star game coming up. We'll cover that as we get closer. The biggest thing coming up, and we should have a bunch of stuff to talk about next week, is the NBA trade deadline.
Ooh,
But
it's
it
coming.
started early a little bit. There's a trade today. Grizzlies. This was to me. This came out of left field, man.
I'm
I
with you.
I understand, and we'll get into some of the reasons we think why. But I was just surprised to see it. To be honest with you, when I saw, how it says like on Instagram, it says breaking, and it had a picture of Steven Adams, who's been traded from the Grizzlies. I was like, oh, did he hurt again, or like
That's what I
something
thought too.
was like a health thing. But Grizzlies are actually moving Steven Adams to the Rockets for Victor Oladipo and 3 second-round picks.
Yeah.
Seems to be that the Grizzlies are adding up some draft capital since this season is obviously seemingly lost. They have
Yeah.
damn near everybody hurt on their team. I still think Adams was a big part of the reason why they couldn't beat the Lakers last year. So them not having him seems weird. I guess they're just kind of banking on Jaren Jackson Jr.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think another thing I looked into it more because as soon as it went off on my phone, I was at work and me and Tim were talking about something, and I was like, Steven Adams just got traded. He's like, is he playing? I'm like, no, he's been hurt all year. Like he hasn't.
Oh
He
yeah,
got
that's
he
right.
had surgery in the offseason. He hasn't played one game for Memphis this season. So I
He's
thought
supposed to
that
miss
was
the whole
kind of
season, I think.
bizarre. So it looks like what they're doing is by getting rid of him because he has this year and next year on his deal. Oladipo's contract expires at the end of this season. So the Grizzlies are basically wiping some money off the books for next year to get under that tax apron so they don't have to pay the extra taxes and fees on top of being over it. And then, like you said, the Rockets are adding Adams to be kind of a complement to Sengun, who's been really good, but also doesn't play a lot of defense and isn't very physical. And that's what Steven Adams is.
True.
So he should be healthy for the 24-25 season. And if you're the Rockets, you're not going to win anything necessarily championship this year. You're kind of still young and building with everything with Fred VanVleet coming over for the first year.
Kicked our ass.
Unfortunately, Dylan Brooks' a-hole himself is there now.
Ooh.
So I think Brooks and Adams played together in Memphis, so that'll go really well together. Next year, you have a defensive guard and a defensive big man, something for them to build upon. But yeah, if you're the Grizzlies, like you said, you're not playing for anything this year anyway, so you might as well start thinking down the road.
Adams is really good in the pick and roll too. He's not like his own offensive person, but pick and roll mini lob threat.
Yep.
But I think the big thing, like you said, is getting Sengun to not have to go banging up against the Jokic's and the Embiids and
Yep,
shoot even Anthony
absolutely.
Davis sometimes. Even though again they freaking handled us the other day,
Yeah,
but I think that's
AD
a great
was not,
compliment.
fully healthy the other day.
True, true. Yeah, that hip is kind of really giving him trouble. We'll get into the Lakers in a second, but I kind of like the trade. I think it's a win, and we'll see. I think it's a win for the Rockets. 3 second-round picks and Victor
Yeah.
Oladipo, he wasn't really playing anyways. Who
Nope.
cares, right? You didn't have to give up any firsts, but you get a solid starting center to put next to your up and coming power forward and a veteran presence for a very, very young team. And he's so professional, Steven
Oh,
Adams is. He
dude.
just can kind of teach these guys how to not grow up too fast. You don't want to take away their youth and some of the enthusiasm and stuff, but how to be a little bit more professional. Hopefully he could freaking teach Dylan Brooks something. Fucking dick.
Yeah, well, it didn't work in Memphis either, so maybe not. But maybe bring him back a little bit and calm him down. And like you said, teach these young guys that they have and kind of start building something. And Ime Udoka, who's their coach, is all about defense. So having an anchor down low like Adams, he's only 32, so it's not like he's at the back end and he's 35, 36 years old. He's still got a couple good years in him, I think, once he's healthy next year and is able to kind of get back into his game. And yeah, I don't see anything wrong with it as far as Houston goes. Like you said, it's more of a long-term thought than short-term at this season, but it's a win-win, I think, for them.
Agree. Real quick clarification. Corey said he's 30, comma, TOO. He's not 32. He is 30, just so we're on the same page.
Good call.
We'll stick with 32 because that's what Austin freaking Reeves dropped tonight in a LeBron-less and Anthony Davis-less Lakers team go into Boston. This was one of the 2 games that we were not hoping that they would lose, but one of only 2 games that they thought they would lose. Yeah, assuming they would lose on this road trip. And it's one of the games that they win. They take it to the best team. That's 2 LA teams now coming into Boston. Now, granted, we didn't beat the crap out of them like the Clippers did, but we handled business. I mean, we had none of our 2 best players, and we won a great game. Everybody was pretty much involved. Final was 114-105. It was basically like 10 plus points throughout like most of the game, to be honest with you. So kind of exciting to see, but this is the roller coaster that we're freaking on. I was telling you before we start yeah, exactly. Back to 500. I was kind of telling you before we started this that we're going to have a full squad. I bet you, AD and LeBron come back for Saturday at Madison Square Garden, and we're probably going to fucking get blown out by the Knicks. So, I'm hoping not, of course, but, the one good thing is that Julius Randle is out. So hopefully, we can kind of man the middle there. And it's one less score that they have. So we'll see how it goes on Saturday at MSG. But this was a big win.
Yeah, absolutely. Like you said, Reeves with 32 and then a career high 7 3-pointers going 7 to 10 from downtown. And there was a couple of them that were way downtown. I can't even believe they went in, but it worked out. D'Lo had almost a triple double, 16 points, 14 assists, which I believe we were looking at earlier is the 4th highest assists that a Laker has had at Boston Garden, the other 3 being Magic Johnson with like 20, 19, and 15. So nice
it's
company to be
Magic,
in there.
then
And then,
Magic,
yeah, and
then
then
Magic, and then
exactly.
D'Lo. Okay,
Exactly. Magic, D'Lo, which is just
nice.
to be in that list with him is always a good thing if you're a player. And then they started Jackson Hayes instead of AD today, and he had a 16-point, 10 rebound game and played really
Nice little
well. Had a
double
couple
double.
steals and just seemed to be figuring his things out. And maybe that's what they needed. Everyone was talking about. I think after the night they lost in Atlanta, that LeBron tweeted the hourglass
Hourglass.
situation, and everyone's like trying to figure out what that meant. And then post game, he even asked about it and said, like, what is the message for your team? He said, just do your job. And I think Austin Reeves talked about it tonight. I think that resonated with him and a lot of the team, and they just went out there and didn't try to do too much and played hard, played good defense. I mean, Reeves had 32 on his own, and Jaylen Brown and Tatum combined for 31. So they definitely played some defense
Wow.
and got out of Boston with a win and only handed the Celtics their 3rd home loss of the year. So hopefully, AD's been off since Monday. So by the time they play in New York on Saturday, he's had a good, nice 4 solid days to hopefully get his injury situation taken care of, and LeBron will come back. And, LeBron always, like Kobe, tends to show up at Madison Square Garden because it's the Mecca of NBA, as they say. So hopefully that's a good sign for them, and maybe they can get above 500 before they get back from this Grammy road trip.
I'd love to see it, but that just really kind of makes this trade deadline difficult. Is it the players that we have? Is it the coach? I don't like putting everything on Darvin Ham. Obviously, last year he took a crazy team and took it all the way to the Western Conference Finals. But now, granted, we got swept, but we got swept by the eventual champion, so I don't feel as bad. You know what I mean?
And not
but yeah,
only they got swept, but they didn't get killed in every game. They were in most games until about the
True.
middle of the 4th, and then the last 5 or 6 minutes, the Nuggets kind of took over and ended up winning. So you didn't get, even though they got swept, it wasn't, oh man, we didn't look good, or we didn't have any chance in any of those games.
Yeah, very true, very true. In fact, like you said, we were close in pretty much all of them. But again, it just makes this trade deadline a little bit more confusing because, like you and I have been talking about, I actually think the roster is pretty good. Sure, we could use more 3-point. Sure, we could use a backup person to run the point when LeBron sits. Those are like little pieces that could definitely add up. But I don't think D'Lo's that bad. And when Reeves is doing this kind of stuff, he is the guy that can kind of score. And obviously, 7 of 10 from 3. Yeah, he is him, dude. I really like Austin Reeves, so I kind of like it. But this is the type of game that I like to see when the finals are 114 to 105. That is like the perfect range to me
not
of
155.
basketball. Yes, and in regulation. I can understand if it goes triple, quadruple overtime and you're hitting 130s and 140s, but regulation games that high, no. I liked this. This is the perfect spot for me.
Yep, I'm with you. And it's the Laker team. Like you said, it's confusing. It's up and down. It's almost like they're more built for the playoffs, and they're just kind of bored because a lot of these guys, D'Lo and Hachimura and Vanderbilt all came last year after the deadline. That's when they really turned it on and kind of figured out what they were doing. And I think that's kind of what they're waiting for. They're just kind of hanging around. They'll go to the All-Star break, and hopefully everybody will get healthy besides LeBron and AD, because they'll go to the All-Star weekend again. But then when they get back, like, all right, pedal to the metal, let's get our shit together and let's go play some games and win and get us back into hopefully at least the 6th seed so you can avoid the play-in. And you mentioned, the deadline's next week, so we'll be interested to see what they do. But one of the things to look out for is Kyle Lowry got traded to Charlotte a week ago for Terry Rozier from the Heat. And now that there's talk of, he's making like $30 million, and the Hornets aren't going to want to pay him or make him a part of their organization because LaMelo Ball is the point guard.
Yeah, give him the ball. Yeah.
If he gets bought out, there's talk and rumblings that he might come to the Lakers, which would be the perfect backup point guard. And there's still a possibility that Gabe Vincent could come back in late March, early April. Now, I'm not banking on that because he hasn't played all year and he had a knee surgery, but it would kind of be like a free agent or a trade coming at the back end of the deal of the year and then maybe able to make a difference. So be interesting to see. And I think Lowry and Gabe Vincent were both on the Heat last year together. So there's some continuity there. Maybe one is they can kind of play together, play off each other as the backups. Be interesting to see what Rob does. He always tends to do something. So I don't expect them to do nothing next week.
And those two in particular, actually, I mean, there was a handful of people on the Heat that obviously did work, but they stepped it up in the playoffs. So, it's not like they are the ones that we need to hide come playoff time.
Correct.
Lowry's a dog, to put it,
and
nicely,
won a title.
I guess.
He's won a title before in Toronto. And he's one of those guys where he might not play a lot of minutes at this point in his career because he's kind of old and beat up, but the 15 to maybe 25 minutes that he plays, he's going to play hard. He's going to run an offense. He's going to take some charges. He's going to kind of get under the skin of the other point guards. That's just kind of the way he plays. And this is the best way for me to describe him as far as an NBA fan. He's the
Mm.
better version of Patrick Beverley. He does everything
Yeah,
Patrick Beverley does, but I actually trust him more than I trust Pat Bev when it comes down to game time.
especially on the offensive side of the ball. Like I can
Yes.
kind of trust Pat Bev on the defensive side of the ball, not necessarily anymore, like currently, but take away 5 years off of his most recent career. Dude, when he was with the Clippers, bro, that guy bugged the shit out of me, dude, because he was good, dude. And when he was with the Rockets, he was good, dude. Again, to me, more on one side of the ball. But Lowry, to your point, although small, he is mighty. He's also one of the guys that is down to go grab rebounds. He gets rebounds. He can shoot the three. He can run the offense. He can run a pick and roll. And he's
Doesn't
just a
need to
dog,
score.
man. Yeah, exactly. So I would like that, but we will see. Like you said, Rob's got probably something cooking up, so we'll see what he kind of decides to do here.
Yeah. And you mentioned dogs and point guards. This is a little tiny story. There's not really much to it, but I just thought it was funny because Mike Breen
Mhm.
is so great as an announcer. The Jazz were recently at Madison Square Garden going up against the Knicks, and Colin Sexton, who was originally drafted by the Cavs and then traded to Utah for Spida Mitchell in that deal a year and a half ago or so. He came back and he's playing at Madison Square Garden. He's going up against Jalen Brunson, who's having a career year. He just got named to the All-Star team for the first time. And this clip of them kind of getting in not a tussle, but just kind of a foul that was a little rough. And then Sexton just kind of jawing at Brunson. And then ultimately Mike Breen just with his comment about it, I thought was hilarious. And I just wanted to show everybody. So let's go ahead and run that.
Sexton, he knocks down the three. Meanwhile, the Jazz are 3 for 3. And the Knicks find themselves right now in a 9-point hole.
Sexton only 1 of 10 in last night's game. So he's looking for redemption tonight. Now a foolish foul by Sexton.
Sexton's playing some mind games right now, getting in Jalen Brunson's face, chatting with him. Brett Barnaky just warned him to stop the taunting.
Sexton averages 17 a game.
Now he's talking to the fans. A lot of talk after a 1 for 10 game last night.
Yeah, remember he was with the Cavaliers. He was very effervescent, vivacious.
Oh, he's been playing great.
Jeez,
Mike Breen's the
bro. Honestly, I do really like Mike Breen. Bang!
Yeah.
But I
And
mean, I like him
remember,
for more than that.
we just showed it the other day, the whole Doc Rivers going to Milwaukee and Mike Breen and Doris Burke, doing the pregame thing. And he's like, well, we want to thank Doc for his weeks of service. Like he gets it at the right
Exactly.
spot. And then like you said, his bang call is just iconic, especially with the finals the last, 15, 20 years he's been calling them. Love Mike Breen and everything he does. But this not a big story to it, but I just thought Colin Sexton of all the people poking at Jalen and Jalen Brunson, you can see is laughing like, I don't give a shit about what you say, dude. And for Breen to just be like, yeah, it's a lot coming from a guy who was 1 for 10 yesterday. I just thought it was hilarious.
That is so funny. I'm glad that you found that clip. Really quick, back to Colin Sexton. What the Cavs were so weird. They just kept drafting. They had Darius Garland, right? And then they still drafted. It just seems to be, or they had Colin Sexton. They still drafted Darius Garland. One of the two. I forgot the order. But they just overdraft guards. Remember that one? What was that one year they had? They got Flynn and Rubio, but they
Minnesota.
passed on somebody
That
even
was
better.
Minnesota you're talking
Yeah. Oh,
about.
that was okay. Okay. Yeah, they went guard heavy too. I'm just like, what are you guys doing with all of these guards? And honestly, I'm really glad that they traded Colin Sexton. Darius Garland is the better player, but it also gives Colin Sexton an opportunity to, try to do something out in the NBA. So, kind of like it. Kind of like it. That's a hilarious clip, bro. Thank you for sharing that.
Like I said, Mike Breen's the man.
Another marathon of an episode. I love getting through these, but also just love doing it, man. I love being in it. But as we always say, we're never going to just leave you hanging. We like to leave you with some information. I know we gave you a bunch of fun information about the Super Bowl, but we always got to round it out with one of our fact segments. On Thursdays, it is This Week in Sports History.
Let's do it.
This Week in Sports History. All right. So this week in sports history, we're going to stick with something that we kind of talked about pretty recently when we were talking about basketball. And we're also going to talk about because it kind of just happened. And next week, we're going to have more Lakers stuff happening to honor this gentleman. It was February 2nd, 2009. Kobe Bryant breaks the current Madison Square Garden record with 61 points at MSG to lead the Lakers to a 126-117 victory over the New York Knicks. Bryant, who hits all 20 of his free throws, tops the previous visitor record of 55 points held by Michael Jordan and the overall record held by Bernard King at the time. It has since been broken by Carmelo Anthony, although he was a Knick, at 62. So Melo holds the most at MSG in general. As a Knick, he was at home, but Kobe holds the record for most points scored at MSG as a visiting player. I actually remember that game, dude. Do you?
I do. I'm pretty sure it was an ESPN Friday night game for some reason. I want to say I kind of vaguely remember the ESPN scoreboard or ticker on the bottom of the screen there. But man, Kobe in that time, that was when before they won the first title of the back-to-back with Powell in them, but after they had lost to the Celtics the year before, and that was redemption year for Kobe. They were not gonna lose that year. They were gonna win that title by hook or by crook, and this was just an example that he was doing everything he could on the court that year to make sure they did it.
Well, you're right though that it's ESPN coverage. It was actually a Monday. I just looked it up.
Oh,
So not a Friday, but yes, I mean they do. ESPN is covers basketball on Mondays. So, but yeah, that was great, dude. Great times.
Oh, I miss those times. I want to win another title.
Same, dude. Same.
Number 18. Number 18.
Let's get it before that other team does.
Yeah.
All right, so that was February 2nd. That's tomorrow, basically. But we had something that happened today, February 1st, 2015. My main man, Tom Brady, those were 4 touchdowns to beat the Seahawks in what is most famous for the Malcolm Butler interception at the 1-yard line. Well, technically the end zone, but they were at the 1-yard line. When Russell Wilson throws a pass to the end zone with 20 seconds left, Butler intercepts it and falls basically at the 1 or 2-yard line to seal the deal. They win 28-24 for their 4th Super Bowl title. Brady obviously goes on to win 3 more. But why didn't they run the ball, man? I mean, again, I'm glad they didn't. But why didn't they run the ball?
I don't think we'll ever really know that, especially when you had Marshawn Lynch at running back. It's not like you didn't know who your running back was. You had Marshawn in the prime of his career in Seattle when they had just won the Super Bowl the year previously. I don't know. The 2 things that come to mind though when this play happened after the interception is the clip of Brady on the sideline jumping up and down and screaming, and the other one is the shot of Richard Sherman like completely baffled and like, what the hell did we just do? How did we not win this game? I thought I was about to win my 2nd straight Super Bowl. So those are the 2 iconic moments that come to mind thinking about this game.
Yeah, besides the play itself, I would 100% agree with you. Everybody remembers the play, but I remember Richard Sherman's face. That's the part that I remember. And actually, since he's been out of the league, I've watched him a little bit on television and stuff. I don't dislike Richard Sherman as much as I used to. Was not a fan. Obviously, I guess as a Cardinals fan, I don't really like anybody in the NFC West, but was not a fan of him even when he played for the Niners. Again, another NFC West team facing the Cardinals. Wasn't really a fan of him, but I've not grown to like him, but now I'm more neutral about Richard Sherman. I like some of his takes. In fact, I've quoted some of them here on the show because I think he is a smart guy, went to Stanford, and obviously knows the game of football really well, part of the Legion of Boom, and borderline HOF? Probably not. Football's hard.
Yeah, it's hard to get in the Hall of Fame in football, man. It's literally the hardest sport, I think, to get in. But I'm with you there. I mean, Sherman at that time, I don't know if it's necessarily him that I was not a fan of at the time. I think it was just that whole ego of that defense for the Seahawks. They were just so good, so just, boisterous about themselves and talking about how good they were. And then the year prior, I think, was when they won the Super Bowl against Denver, but in that NFC title game after the Crabtree thing, and you don't come at me with a weak receiver like that, yelling in Aaron Andrews' face in the post-game post-game interview after on the sideline. So, I mean, I think part of that was just the fact that the way they were built, but I mean, they were damn good, man. Legion of Boom was one of, if not probably, I would say maybe top 5 defensive groups of all time. I mean, the 85 Bears,
probably
2000 Ravens come to mind as well. So they're probably up there in that discussion with those groups.
Yep, Steel Curtain up there too.
There you go. That's another one.
But yeah, I mean, it's actually very close. They rolled the freaking Broncos. It wasn't even a game. I mean, the first play of the game was over. Yeah, it was.
Is that when Percy Harvin read the turn back?
Yeah, I think so. And the first game of the first play of the game was the safety because it was a botched snap and it went over Peyton Manning's shoulder. And first play of the game.
I did like that though. I loved to watch Peyton Manning lose back.
I knew you. I was obviously rooting for the Broncos that year because not rooting for the Seattle Seahawks really ever. But it didn't even wasn't even a good football game.
No,
Like
it
you said,
wasn't.
over by halftime. Nobody even finished it because it was just atrocious to
No,
watch.
I think the only thing people were waiting for after the first half was over was the end of the third and fourth, so we could figure out what numbers for squares and who was winning money.
The
I think
pool,
that's all
yeah.
was counting down.
See if there's any good commercials that might come on because
Yeah,
you know that
true.
was a good time for
I hope they
commercials and
saved
stuff
all
like
the good
that.
ones for the second half that year. That's all I can say.
Yeah, because that'd be a lot of wasted money. Nobody watched it. I'll tell you
Oh
that.
yeah.
But hopefully you guys are watching this. We have a bunch more facts. We have MILF Mondays every Monday where Corey gives out some random facts. We have This Week in Sports History where I come up with a couple things that have happened most recently, obviously back in history. If you want to look at any of them, you can find them at the end of all of our episodes. Where could you find the episodes, man?
Yeah, if you want to listen to the audio version, you can find us on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. But if you'd like to watch us on YouTube and see all the slides and different clips and not just hear them on the audio version, you can search us on YouTube and just look up Our View from the Bench on all three platforms.
Also, don't forget to follow us on Twitter and on Instagram at RviewFTB. We'd appreciate the convo there as well. How is your weekend looking, dude, now that we are here at Thursday evening?
Man, weekend. I am working a concert tomorrow, Gloria Trevi, which is a Spanish artist. I don't know any of her music, but I'm working. And then Saturday, I'm actually working the Trilogy Tour, which is Enrique Iglesias, Ricky Martin, and Pitbull, Mr. Worldwide, Mr. 305, all doing the show together. And
Dale, yeah.
Dale. We're gonna sell a hat that probably says that on it. We did the last time he was there.
Did you really?
Yeah, we did. And actually, at the time, my manager back then was this guy Matt, who didn't know that it was Dale on the hat. He thought it said Dale. He's like, "Who's Dale?"
I knew
like,
it.
Oh my God, Matt! No, it's Dale. He's like, "Oh, I don't know Pitbull's music."
That's hilarious.
Typically, when it's multiple artists like that, each one has their own set. The opener, the middle band, and the closer. But from what I gather, it's a tour of all three of them together. So they're going to play for an hour, all three of them, kind of two at a time, three at a time, and rotating, changing outfits, I would assume, and then they'll have a second act and a third act. But it's kind of all three of them kind of mishmashing together and just going to be on stage like crazy. So it'll be a long weekend of work for me. And then actually Sunday, if it's not raining too crazy and I can drive down to San Diego, I'm going to the first game this year that I'm able to go to because I'm not working at the same time for the San Diego Seals, which I mentioned earlier, the NLL, the National Lacrosse League. So they're top in the league right now. I think they have the best record in the entire league, and it's their first home game in over a month. So it'd be nice to get back down there. If anybody's interested, NLL, all their games are on ESPN Plus. There's I think like 15 teams, including Vegas Desert Dogs, that just got into the expansion 2 years ago or so. If you like hockey at all, you'll love indoor lacrosse. It's essentially the same playing thing, except they're running on carpet instead of on ice. It's 5-on-5. There's a 30-second shot clock, so it keeps moving. It is an absolute blast. If you like lacrosse or you like hockey in general, you should check it out if you haven't seen it before. But that is hopefully what I'll be doing Sunday afternoon, but we'll see based on weather. What about you, sir?
That sounds pretty cool. Actually, I really want before I answer, I really like watching college lacrosse, which is outdoor lacrosse, so it's a little bit bigger field, more players. So I could see myself. Lacrosse is actually a really, really cool sport to watch, and I'm sure it's actually pretty fun to play. I haven't played it, but it looks really cool.
Definitely don't want to play it based on what I watch in the NLL. I mean, they hit the crap out of each other. The funniest thing to me though is it's like hockey where they change lines like constantly off the bench, and there's guys that their position is called transition. So as soon as the ball is turned over and they're going the other direction, as soon as somebody gets to the bench, they take off and then they're down the field and then they can throw it down and try to set up their offense. One of the funnier things though to me is the goalies. They wear big, huge pads just like goalies in hockey, but they just walk and run, and the pads, especially the knee pads, kind of bounce and move. It's really funny to watch them run up and down from the bench sometimes. But again, the sport itself is amazing and fun to watch. I was never into lacrosse until the Seals became a team, and I think it was 2019 was the first season. Tim and I went down to just check out a game. We have been season ticket holders ever since, and it is a blast. So if you get a chance to watch it on ESPN Plus, please check it out. The league is continuing to grow. They're saying right now is the next major league. So they're really trying to promote it and build it. I believe Wayne Gretzky, Steve Nash are partial owners of the team in Vegas, and Joe Tsai, who owns the Brooklyn Nets, owns the Vegas team as well as the San Diego Seals. So a lot of money being poured into it and hopefully growing the sport itself. So if you get a chance to check it out, you definitely should.
Nice. The second comment is Ricky Martin, dude. I haven't heard from that guy in freaking forever.
There's going to be a lot of music and a lot of alcohol on Saturday at that arena, let me tell you.
I mean, Pitbull's been pretty relevant. I know Pitbull's still kind of around, but dang, Ricky Martin. I mean, even Enrique Iglesias has had somewhat but dude, Ricky Martin was like when we were kids, dude. That's an old name. That's an old name.
She bang.
Dude, seriously, right? Living La Vida Loca, bro. Speaking of Loco, this weekend is I don't know, fairly chill for me. I don't really have much planned, I don't think. Nope. Just kind of get prepared, maybe watch some of the Pro Bowl activities, watching some talented football people not play football. And
well, if you're looking for anything else to watch too, don't forget the NHL All-Star game is Saturday afternoon.
Oh yes, that'll actually be cool. I like that. I think that'll be fun. They actually did the draft today, huh?
They did. I watched it at work today. Yeah, they had all the guys. Will Arnett. We talked about what was her Tessa Ray, I think her name was, and yeah, they did the draft. Everyone's wearing those ugly ass jerseys, but they're ready to play on Saturday. They have all the skills competitions tomorrow in Toronto, and then next thing you know, we'll be back on the ice, and Ducks will be back home next week.
Nice, man. Nice. And, this is the end of our week as far as the podcast go. But next thing you know, we'll be back on the podcast on Monday talking about anything that's happened over the weekend and really starting to hone in on what's going down for the Super Bowl that following Sunday. So,
Super Bowl.
Excited for it.
Excited
for it. Yep. But anyways, appreciate everybody stopping by. Always appreciate the views, the listens. Thank you, as always, for seeing things from our view from the bench. I'm Brendan.
And I'm Corey. Like we always say, enjoy the sports until we talk again.
Peace.
This was a Sycamore Fourth Studios production.